Alright, welcome back to Shadow the Hedgehog. This time we are finishing things off into the last story. Like Sonic Heroes, there was a final story to Shadow the Hedgehog. It was only unlockable if you got all 10 endings in the game, so just in case you were wondering why it was such a short game through just the one playthrough that we did. That's because the game really does anticipate that you go back and play through all the endings, which will eventually cause you to get all 24, or do all 24 levels, at least once, just so that you'll know which ones to avoid to go get the other endings. Usually you'll probably stick to the neutral path to push you far down the storyline before diverting just enough to get whatever ending you're looking for. But here, we are in the last story, and Shadow has brought the Chaos Emeralds to the Black Comet in order to find out about his past, only to find that he's been duped by Black Doom the entire time. This is why I don't think that a lot of people complain that Black Doom gives Shadow a lot of crap for betraying him and then trying to use him again. I think that misses the point. The point is that Black Doom wanted all 7 Chaos Emeralds in one place. And he knew that he had sent Shadow to go look for them. So the fact that Shadow, went against his wishes at certain points in time during the various story runs, I don't think bothered Black Doom very much. Black Doom's voice is the voice of Sean Schemmel, famous as the American voice of Goku, ever since Funimation took over with its in-house voice actors, the Dragon Ball Z anime localization way back in the late 90s. So here we have Black Doom seizing control of the Chaos Emeralds for the real purpose that he wanted them, and that is to bring the Black Comet down to Earth level. Obviously, if he tried to plunge the Black Comet into Earth, that would have just resulted in the destruction of the comet, and probably the destruction of most life on Earth. And that's not really where Black Doom was looking for. This is very much Tree of Might vibes, if you remember that Dragon Ball Z movie. And now we're going to see why Shadow... Or we're going to see the mechanism by which Shadow becomes the hero at the end of the story. I mean, after all, the things are still set up so that Sonic could potentially save the day here. And that's what you would expect playing a Sonic game. And a lot of explanation here. I think that most people sort of, you get how the Chaos Emeralds work. And it's revealed to Shadow for the second time, since we know from the story we were in, we know the General knew about the team-up between Black Doom and Dr. Gerald. Now Black Doom is telling us his side, his version of the story.
So we made a deal. I helped him, and he promised to deliver me the 7 Chaos Emeralds.
And this gives Shadow kind of a connection, not just the coloration of Shadow, kind of a connection to another character that I like, from at least my experiences with him, and that is Venom. Because if Sonic is the main hero of the Sonic universe, the Spider-Man character, Shadow is... Shadow is the Venom character, the alien-infused guy who's similarly powered to the main hero. Right, Sonic and Knuckles break through everybody's sort of anger at the discovery about Dr. Gerald to, get to work, except that an alien gas that's located on the Black Comet has now paralyzed their movements, except for their mouths. I don't know why they can still talk. And then, because Black Doom is your normal thinking, over boisterous villain. He sends his little podlings to devour these guys, but they don't do it very quickly. In fact, they're going to do it so slowly that no one's actually going to die from this. So now Shadow is getting some mental fortitude, and that's going to align with his alien blood and allow him to resist the gas. So again, you know, this is sort of Black Doom. You know, Black Doom is the reason that Shadow is able to resist him here. There's a whole lot of, you know, what people have to do. You know, Gerald did this, Black Doom did that, to get here. And now Shadow is going to finish off Black Doom, or at least he claims he is. And of course, because of his alien blood, he's the only one who can do it. And so we're going to leave Sonic and his friends at the mercy of the Podlings, although at some point they're going to get away. And we're going to end up in the last level of the game, the last way. Coming out of Cosmic Fall, which was the last level that we did, you know, we had a 15-minute time limit on a level that really didn't need it. Now we have a 10-minute time limit on a level where it's actually more of an issue. So my recommendation to anyone playing this level is, you know, once you get a gun, and I would wait until the first shadow box to get a gun. Once you get a gun, you should probably keep going. The reason I stop here and kill these guys coming out of this alien spaceship with the shadow rifle, which is a one-hit kill weapon, is just to get a chaos control boost here and move further a little faster. But for the most part, you don't want to stop and deal with people. You want to keep moving. Ran into some explosions. The last way is probably the level that will most mess with you as far as the physics, as far as trying to control yourself, what you'll run into. Again, because there are these enemies, and we saw these enemies before, you know, these elite troopers that just sort of spawn in, and they will spawn in places that will not help you. In this section, you could shoot, you know, engage in a gun battle with every alien that charges at you, but that's going to slow you down, particularly these shield aliens. So you're much better off just keep moving forward. Get to the other grind rails. It is possible to jump in such a way that you can skip some of the grind sections and probably save some time. Since I'm not real big on... Yeah, and that's the other thing I don't like, is when you're trying to... Here I tried to pick up a gun, and it resulted in me getting shot and losing most of my rings. You know, there's just a lot of times in the last wave where, you know, Shadow's limitations with movement, because of his sliding mechanics, courtesy of his air shoes, which were probably supposed to make him a different feeling character than Sonic a little bit. They may cause you some problems. In fact, again, this is a composite run here. This is not a straight go at this level. I was in this level over and over again, usually because I did silly things like make bad jumps. Alright, so here I'm just rushing through this section. Now, if you've got a vacuum gun, you can actually get through this. This doesn't have to take you as long as it takes me here. And the reason I say that is because of the end of the pathway, right here. The end of the pathway, if you have a vacuum gun, you can jump up onto that, or you can pull that platform out and jump up on it. It's possible, you know, I might have been able to just jump up on it, period, but I didn't actually test that. Another problem you can have with these enemies is that you can't, these worms cannot be killed with the normal, alien weapons. You need at least the alien elite rifle, which I've got right here, because the alien rifle that shoots the rings is not powerful enough to do what you want it to do. So for the sake of time, I'm going to skip those guys and move over here. And there's another cut. So this is a place where I died a lot, and it's getting the light speed dash right here that caused the most problems. So then there's more elites in this section. Again, I'm just running through it, trying to save time, because at the end of this pathway there's this little section, and now you just need to kill one of the elites, grab their gun, and start killing the rest of them and taking their ammo. And if you keep doing that, you'll fill up your chaos control gauge. And of course I ran right into an alien there. You'll fill up your chaos control gauge, and you'll be able to move on to the next section. If there is another path out of this little arena, I don't know where it is. Or at least I didn't go looking for it. So if you know a better way than me, go for it. Because again, while I'm playing through these things, because these games, you know, I have some connection to the story and the characters. And I don't claim to be an expert Sonic player. Anyone who saw my runs of Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, where I got no emeralds. Or barely any emeralds. Knows that's the case. Now in this part, we're going to be using the triangle jump here. And Shadow can run a little bit on the walls after he triangle jumps, so try to use that to your advantage. Because if you just straight triangle jump across, you will hit one of the bombs going away. Now I'm going to do the same thing here that I did in the other little arena section, and just shoot elites. Partially until I run out of ammo, and partially until I fill up my chaos control gauge. And now, I didn't have to actually stay in that arena, so it might be worthwhile to you not to stick around at that spot where I did, and just keep going. So now we're in another canyon section, as I like to refer to them. And this one the stuff, you know, these bones and things won't hurt you, so you can kind of hang around at the edge of the map, whereas other canyon levels have the moving, living tentacle thingies that can hurt you. And now we're right at Black Dune, in the middle of the Black Comet. There may be a rank that you're given, but I've never seen it. So really it just is get to the end of that stage in 10 minutes. And then we're into another set of cutscenes. Where once again, Black Doom tries to seize control of Shadow using his alien abilities.
I've heard enough. You're boring me to death, Black Doom. You're going down.
Alright, so this time,
Hedgehog, I thought you were different from the rest. Maybe
Black Doom is going to
like than you think. The same blood
Yep.
runs through our veins.
seize control of Shadow's blood and try to stop him that way.
Just who are you?
And he's going to succeed for just a couple of minutes.
What?
That's right. You are a part of me. Do you feel that? I can control you. You cannot escape me, nor can you escape your past.
Damn you! No! It's not
Then we
true.
get another obligatory curse from Shadow. Just want to remind people that this was a Family's Choice game. Family Choice Award nominee. I don't think they won for some magazine in 2005. And now we meet our pals, the Chaotix, who we last saw when we didn't exactly get Vector to the computer room at the end of Cosmic Fall. But it seems like they found a computer on the Ark that Charmy has successfully messed with. If you took a different route, if you followed the anti-hero or the semi-hero story all the way through, you would have seen Shadow do something like that to the computer, so it's not completely out of the blue that Charmy can force the Ark computers to work. Of course, it reminds me of the scene from the movie Armageddon, where the Russian guy basically kicks machinery to get it to work. And now we get another cutscene.
The government plans to cease all of our research and imprison.
So here's a video log from Gerald Robotnik, a guy who liked to create video logs. We know this.
It's all my fault.
This is a message clearly to the future.
Professor Gerald?
Now listen very carefully.
And this message is where Gerald tells Shadow that even though he made a deal with the Black Aliens, he expects Shadow to defeat them using the Eclipse Cannon, which, of course, in Sonic Adventure 2, Gerald was very willing to use to eliminate all life on Earth.
It's brilliant!
At least after, he snapped. But at least it seems like the Eclipse Cannon's first job was to defend against the return of the aliens. And it's just so lucky for us that the Eclipse Cannon still functions. The Ark was falling apart in Cosmic Fall, at least the way that Shadow described it.
Don't worry, Grandfather. Shadow and I will protect this planet. Right, Shadow?
And he even gets a little picture of Maria. Of course, Maria was, I don't know, maybe like 10 when she got shot. So she would have been an older lady when the Black Arms returned. Gerald would not have been around just because he would have been too old anyway. So now Shadow asserts his control over his own body. He uses alien blood to resist the gas. Now he's using his own force of will to resist Black Doom's control. He kicks Black Doom away, and that leaves the Chaos Emeralds with Shadow. Now, if you've seen Sonic Adventure 2, you know that Shadow can use the Emeralds to become Super Shadow. Just like Sonic uses the Emeralds to become Super Sonic. And so now we're in one of the very normal adventure era Sonic tropes, which is a final boss fight where Super Sonic, or in this case Super Shadow, fights the final enemy. We get a nice little live and learn rip before we move into the final fight against Devil Doom. Now Black Doom is fighting us with fire breath and lasers and defending himself with his wings and stuff like that. Now, this fight can be very frustrating even more frustrating than the Metal Madness, Metal Overlord fight from Heroes. In fact, that fight's a lot easier than this one. But some of the ideas are the same. First off, you want to keep, your first job is actually not to hit Black Doom. Your first job is to keep your ring count up. And so every time you go after Black Doom, he'll raise rubble. Black Doom has like this little distance meter, and if you're too close, he will chaos control away from you and set up somewhere else. This is useful because there are a couple times where Black Doom does not spawn rubble, and you need the rubble because you're going to need the rings in order to keep your ring count high. Now what you have to do is you need to hit Black Doom in his eye, but his eye will move from one head on one side of his body to the other, and he will use his wings to shield his eye if your aim is not quite there. Eventually you can break his wings such that he can't use them to shield anymore, but that takes a long time. And so that shouldn't be a goal of yours, to break the rings. Okay, every time you break buildings that Black Doom throws at you, you raise your Chaos Blast meter. And so you can use your Chaos Blast meter to do some good damage to Black Doom's eye, assuming you don't miss somehow. You also need to avoid Black Doom's Fire Breath because it just takes time. It slows you down, and that means that it depletes rings while you're trying to do other things. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can attack Black Doom's eye. You're using your Chaos Spear attack no matter what you do. But ideally, you would be able to charge it up and then hit Black Doom in the middle of his eye. The problem with this is my aim is not very good. A better player, I'm sure, could do that. And if you successfully are able to charge up your Chaos Blast attack, your Chaos Spear attack, and then hit him in the eye every time you have an opportunity, this fight doesn't have to last very long. However, if your aim is off, and because there's so many things to target, the game's auto-targeting sometimes gives you a bad target. You may find yourself doing the second way to defeat Black Doom, which is to hit him with smaller Chaos Spears more often. Problem with this is it takes a lot of time, and this is going to test your ability to collect rings.
Die along with these foolish humans.
So again, anytime that there are ruins, you actually don't want to go after Black Doom first. You want to go after the ring balloons. And it doesn't hurt you so much because that will help you fill in your Chaos Blast meter as you're trying to defend yourself while you're trying to shoot the thing. Now I'm telling you, I told you not to focus on his wings, but I have so many rings right now that if he's going to block with his wings, I'm just going to destroy, try to get them out of there. You can see one of his wings is already green, which means he can't use it to block anymore.
I'll shred you to pieces.
Okay, and that time we got a direct hit with Chaos Blast. I'm going to try to get over and do it again before I run out of Chaos Blast meter. And this tells you that you've got about half of his health done when he says that he seems to have underestimated the true power of the emeralds. One of the interesting things that this game explores is the relationship between Shadow and the other characters in the Sonic universe. So, there's some interesting dialogue in both the last way and this level. One that sticks out to me is, Tails telling Shadow he knows he can do it. At the beginning of the last way, and the reason for that is because it's the only time I can really think of where Tails and Shadow have any sort of dialogue at all. Another person who you might hear from, depending on how long it takes you to beat the level, is Dr. Eggman. If you take about 8 minutes and 30 seconds to defeat this boss fight, and again, depending on your luck, depending on how the game decides to treat you with ring balloons and other things, it may take that long. Dr. Eggman will tell you that he did indeed save you from after your fall to Earth in Sonic Adventure 2. Looking, with about 10 more years of Sonic games to look at, along with a look at the classic games, it really shouldn't have been a surprise that Shadow survived his fall to Earth, considering that Sonic has fallen to Earth many times and not suffered from it. Usually, the argument for how he would get around it would involve feats of physics that aren't technically possible.
The gas from this comet will have spread over the entire planet.
Like landing on the tornado after falling through the air, which still should cripple him, probably break the tornado, but seems to work out in Sonic's favor. Sonic fell from the sky in Sonic Unleashed, which of course postdates Sonic Adventure 2. But there was plenty of signs that someone could survive a fall, or at least one of these superpowered Hedgehog characters could survive a fall from space.
Chaos control.
So Eggman tells Shadow that he recovered him, and that he is in fact the original Shadow the Hedgehog from Adventure 2. Which, I guess is bittersweet for Shadow, because you never get the sense that Shadow remembers much about Adventure 2. So now we're getting close. We're at 8 minutes, 10 seconds. In about another 15 seconds, the Eggman, the Eggman dialogue would trigger. We also under 50 rings, which is where I like to try to stay for the boss fight, and we get him for one final hit.
That rules this universe. I am the immortal life form. I am the ultimate power.
And down goes Black Doom.
This is the end of you, and the end to my cursed.
I guess we can assume that Black Doom crashes on the comet below. So when Shadow does this number and uses a massive chaos control of his own to remove the comet and send it onto a collision flight path with the Eclipse cannon from the Ark. I guess you can assume that when the cannon gets blown up, that Black Doom gets destroyed, but there are Sonic villains who've had more convincing deaths than this and come back in the next iteration, the next game. So then everybody says nice things about Shadow the Hedgehog.
I'm sure he's fine, Rouge. After all, he is Shadow.
How about giving me back those chaos?
And Eggman gets an ending similar to his ending from Sonic Heroes. Of course, in that game it was the Chaotix who were running him down to beat him up. Now it's Knuckles But, the idea is the same, I guess. And the president and the gun commander, through all their stuff, realized that Gerald Robotnik did save them all. But
let us pay homage to Professor Gerald.
A lot of people have noted that this seems a very quick turnabout on Professor Gerald's character, considering he was also the guy who did plan to plunge the Ark into the Earth and destroy all of humanity. And so we get one final scene of Shadow
the Hedgehog,
moving away from his past. And then we get the credits. And in this credit sequence, you get the Crush 40 song, Never Turn Back. Considered by some to be the best piece of music from the game. It certainly has a great theme for anyone who's ever needed redemption or needed to turn the page on some aspect of their life. And I think this is the important moment of Shadow the Hedgehog, is Shadow's a more complicated character. He's motivated by what few events he's had in his life. He's motivated by his past. He's motivated by his search for identity. All things that anyone can sort of understand. But he exists in a universe where he has to decide what right and wrong are. He's not naturally good. He has to decide to do good things. And that way, that makes him different than Sonic. Sonic just runs off and just naturally stumbles upon the right thing to do, the right way to handle things in most stories. It can be a little frustrating because, sometimes he can do it a little bit arrogantly, a little bit foolishly. For Shadow, it's an active process to decide what he's going to do and why he's going to do it. And I think that's a much more real kind of situation. We don't necessarily always gravitate toward that obvious good choice. We have to think about our options. Think about what things really are and what we really need to do. And so, Shadow fits that. In the end, in the last story, Shadow does the right thing and defends the Earth against Black Doom. Unfortunately, the game itself, as we see some cutscenes that we didn't actually play through, the game itself didn't end up being that very successful. In fact, my first connection to the game was via the Game Grumps playthrough of this, where they were basically, making fun of a lot of things in the game. But it was just so ridiculous that it was just right up my alley. And so I wanted to find the secret that were hidden in this game. And I think for the most part I did. And for me, that makes Shadow the Hedgehog a decent experience despite the gameplay problems. There are life lessons here that don't necessarily get shown in other Sonic games because most Sonic games have a protagonist who is infallible. And Shadow Shadow differs from that. Which is kind of interesting because it means that he has a lot more in common with his with some of Sonic's friends than Sonic does. You know, you'll see that Tails, who's a much more cautious character than Sonic, but always gets overruled by Sonic, and Sonic always ends up being right. But you could see where Tails would have much more of an even plane dealing with Shadow than he would necessarily with dealing with his own hero, Sonic. But we'll leave that alone, and I'll see you with whatever happens next.